So events such as this are moments in time that, like all true events, split paradoxically in two directions simultaneously. They make us think back into the deep past, to our school's founding and foundation, something that President Ryan covered kind of at warp speed. And they also project us forward by marking in a single instant our first step into the architecture school's next century, our next 100. So I'm going to talk a little bit about looking back and looking forward. So looking back, of course, we're here to honor the incredible legacy and history of the School of Architecture, something that is truly humbling when you consider not simply its longevity, but also its enormous impact throughout time and across disciplines and geographies. Histories, as our faculty will tell you, are very complex phenomena. They define critical moments in time, such as the building of Jefferson's Academical Village that we're inhabiting tonight, key dates that mark the founding of our many degree programs, and I'm going to say 1919 for art and architecture, 1958 for architectural history, 1959 for city planning, and 1969 for landscape architecture, and of course we're celebrating our 50th for landscape architecture. Also define significant events, such as Mies van der Rohe receiving the first Thomas Jefferson Medal in Architecture in 1966, incredible part of our history. Or the opening of Pietro Bellusci's Campbell Hall in 1970. Considered at that time to be a state-of-the-art building. It still is a state-of-the-art building, but one of the absolute best in the country for architectural education, including, as President Ryan had mentioned, the amazing refrigerated wall. So who says we didn't do technology a long time ago, right? Now many of these defining moments initiated long-term legacies for the school. They define many legacies for the school. The evolution of our multidisciplinary design community. The way in which we work across disciplines, I think, is like no other school in this country. Our astounding list of over 50 Thomas Jefferson medalists in architecture, and the tradition, as architects have been known to do, of building and rebuilding their home. You know, it's what we do. Something that continued in the additions in 2008 by W.G. Clark and Bill Sherman. The landscapes of Warren Bird, thank you, Warren. And Bill and W.G. All under Karen Van Langen's leadership. And that persists, yes, thank you, Karen, incredible legacy. And that persists to this day with our recent renovations and, of course, our planned future expansion. We're not quite done. Histories also draw pictures for us of distinct eras or reconstitute the spirit of a time, asking us to think about the school's relationship to its external temporal context, such as the impact of the Beaux-Arts and the Bauhaus that they had in the early decades, or how the growing awareness of environmental issues in the latter half of the 20th century led to things like the opening of IEN, Phoebe Chrisman's creation of the world's first wetland classroom, Julie Bargman's pioneering work on Rust Belt urban remediation, Tim Beatley's Biophilic Cities Network, and of course, more recently our work across the globe in India, the Arctic, Africa, and the Amazon. Histories also trace the progress of discoveries, the clashes of controversies, and the hidden influences that manifest themselves in the world around us. The Civil Rights Movement and Civil Rights Act that resulted in the long overdue official opening of the university's doors to women and African American students in the 1960s and 70s. Or more recently, how the events of August 11th and 12th and the rise of the Me Too movement has spurred on our own social justice efforts in the classroom, the activation of NOMIS, our National Organization of Minority Architects Student Chapter, the recent founding of Manifesta, our Women in Design group, and our 100 Voices project dedicated to capturing the oral histories of the school that have yet to be told. There are also many stories of our collective past, we could say, that exceed the official histories of the school. And these are, of course, the events that each of you remember from your own experiences here. These moments at the A School that had an impact on your own life. A phenomenal teacher who changed how you think, how you see the world, or inspired you to do something that you never thought you were capable of. The incredible colleagues who might have become lifelong friends and companions that you shared your experiences with, such as the infamous tradition of the Beaux-Arts Ball. Now, this is something that someone needs to explain to our incoming undergraduate students, so that the real tradition of wrapping yourself in carefully pleated tinfoil or any other equivalent creative costume-making endeavor isn't entirely lost on generations to come. They think it's a prom or a ball. So a little bit of work to be done there. Or the atypical journey through a design education. Something that is extremely difficult to explain to almost anyone who hasn't experienced it firsthand. The first time that I gave up my bed in second year to my architectural model, and I slept on the floor, likely marked a turning point in my own career that I didn't recognize at the time, but I'm sure any therapist would have a heyday with that. But it's something that's not unfamiliar within disciplines such as ours that are so often driven by great passion and also sometimes great sacrifice. In this case, the sacrifice of sleep that any architecture student and any graduate knows all too well. Now, these memories, experiences, and untold stories are the unofficial history of our school, of our community, and of our home. Our 100-year history thus lives on and is embodied in all of you. And for our alumni, I hope is a kernel embedded in everything that you've done in your lives since your time here. You are truly our greatest achievement and a living embodiment of this school's tremendous reputation and legacy. And it is this legacy that we are honoring and celebrating this evening. So thank you. Looking forward, if we have one goal for our next 100, it would be to ensure not only that our students and future graduates are able to build on this legacy, but more importantly, that they have the support that they need to truly become the next generation of leaders, thinkers, and designers that we so desperately need in this world. Those who will take on the most difficult and pressing challenges of our time and also envision, design, and build the most just, compelling, beautiful, and courageous of futures. I'm going to be serious for a few moments, so bear with me. I know it's a celebration. Ruben didn't go there, but I'm going to. To say that we have some social, environmental, and urban challenges ahead of us would be an understatement. As Xichao Li, one of our professors in architecture and history, had so eloquently phrased it, the very foundations of life, our democratic social structures, and planetary ecosystems are under enormous strain. We're also realizing that our values and our modes of occupying and instrumentalizing the earth are responsible. Sylvia Earle, our most recent TJ medalist for citizen leadership, reminded us last year that we are facing global ecological crises never before imagined at this magnitude and scale. Our habits of consumption are literally burying the earth and oceans in garbage. Our planet is heating up. The ocean is acidifying. The Amazon is burning. Our glaciers are melting, and our most vulnerable are becoming more vulnerable. The human population of the earth is exploding, and yet the other species that it supports are rapidly diminishing, and we still haven't learned how to share. Dr. Earle also noted, quite calmly, in fact, that we have about a decade to try to turn things around. and to make a definitive and positive change, and that she believes, as I do, that we have the capacity to do so. History, more than any other discipline, teaches us that change, and sometimes revolutionary change, something that the history of this university truly embodies, is a necessary part of the evolution of civilizations. I deeply believe in the power of education and our next generation to lead that change. Education not only transforms lives, it defines what we do, what we deem important, and has the capacity to transform the world around us. It is one of the most critical investments that we can make as a society because its value is seldom overinflated and its returns will always be prodigious. An investment in education and in our school is a long-term investment in humanity and in our collective future. I also passionately believe in the power of creativity and design. I have always said that the design disciplines are inherently optimistic because we are always thinking about, designing, and planning for alternative futures. It is part of our DNA. It is what we study, it is what we make, and it is what we do. You've heard me say it before, every day we make and remake the world. We create fictions that concretize our imagination, and then we materialize them by building them out in the world. That is the true power of design. Our world, what it is now, and what it could or will become, is really only limited by our imagination. Lewis Nelson, our professor of architectural history, had said at graduation this past year, to have an imagination is to have hope. I couldn't agree more. And that we need to charge our graduates to cultivate a prophetic imagination, to essentially cast a vision for the future. We project our knowledge, capacity, and values out into the world through and in the things that we make. And then these things, the architectures, the landscapes, the environments, and the cities that we create, or the books that we write, have a reciprocal effect on us. We make things in the world not only to remake the reality around us, but more importantly and perhaps more profoundly, in order to remake ourselves. We thus create a more just environment within our own university by constructing a memorial to honor the 5,000 enslaved laborers who built this university and ensure that it becomes a space for healing and restorative justice within our own community. We also, contribute every day to creating alternative visions for many places across the globe. We teach students about the importance of their own wetland ecologies through projects like the Learning Barge in Norfolk, while developing strategies for more equitable housing and placemaking within our own backyard in Charlottesville and across Virginia. We develop projects to rehabilitate urban Rust Belt cities like Detroit and Pittsburgh, while taking on enormous territories facing drought and pollution like the Central Valley in California, or areas subject to flooding along our coast. And we send faculty and students across the globe to India, Ghana, China, the Arctic, and the Amazon, whose rapidly transforming cities and environments are in desperate need of rethinking. As a school, we are wholly invested in the making of a better world. What we make defines not only how we live, but also who we are. If we want to support the living and the planet upon which we and all of our other species depend, we therefore have to first understand its value and embody and project that value into the very things that we create. Our pursuit of knowledge, discovery, creativity, and design that we devote our time and attention to every day is ultimately in the service of something that is and should be much larger than ourselves. Because what we truly care about is how we expand our impact on the world around us. When I was asked recently how I would define the School of Architecture in a few words, I'd replied that we are invested in design that matters, that makes a difference in the world. Design that is truly meaningful and beautiful, that embodies the absolute best of our culture and values, and that has a positive impact on everything around us. That is what it means to me, using the words of President Ryan, to be both great and good. We need to be thinking this way because our next 100 years the environments that we inhabit, the places that we value, the ways in which we live, and ultimately the fate of our planet will be determined not by what we do years from now, but rather by what we do or even don't do today. My thanks and gratitude goes out to all of you who have contributed to make the making and life of this really, truly incredible school. Tonight is a night to remember and reflect on our past. It's a night for a tremendous celebration, and it's a night to also project ourselves into the next 100 with great care, passion, and courage. Our school's past was truly revolutionary, and with all of your support, our future will no doubt be world-changing. Please raise your glass and join me in a toast to the School of Architecture. Cheers. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and thank you for coming.